Hola, hola, hola. Was working on my Facebook and my glasses are looking. Well, I can't go back. Hola. Okay. Yeah, you gotta look at me, not the wall. Hi. Hey, Greta, are you here? And Deborah. Aw, my sweet friends, they're both here. Hola. Hey, Deborah. How are you, my dear? Miss Panamanian resident. You know, I was cooking this week and I kept using this little pastry cutter, and I was like, woo, Deborah, you saved my life. I made two sweet potato pies and I made an apple crumble, and I was getting those doughs well. You know, the sweet potato pies came out really good. I was able to find some real sweet potatoes, and you have to go places. You have to know where to find them. And here in Panama, Foodie and Fruteria Mini, those two places have, you know, the kind of sweet potatoes that we used to, because the others, they look real different. You cut them up and they're white, and we're like, what is this? Because, you know, you have Japanese sweet potatoes, you have different ones. And I know in the US, I used to love the boniato. Boniato is a type of sweet potato when you put it in the microwave and it's sweet, it's buttery, and then you put a little butter on it. Oh, yes. But I have to measure myself because, you know, it's sweet, gonna raise your blood sugar. Hola. Yes, Deborah. Post. Oh, my glasses are terrible. Apostle Dr. Cheryl. Hey, how are you? I know you're loving Panama. That's wonderful. Anyway, you guys, did you have a good Thanksgiving? Friendsgiving, you know. I don't celebrate Thanksgiving per se, but we had a gathering here, and if you watch any if you are on our YouTube or Facebook, you should have seen some pictures of the gathering. It was lovely, a time of bonding and loving on each other and eating and drinking, and they were talking and laughing. It was really nice. Yes. Auntie Eva, yes. Hola. ¿Cómo están? Anyway, ladies, you guys know that on this channel, I try to give you information that is going to be important, right? You had dinner with your pastor? Oh, that's lovely. Yes. Thank you. Oh yeah, it was amazing. Of course, I cooked crazily and we had a lot of food, but I only had some left mac and cheese, which I don't usually eat, but I've been eating it for breakfast this morning. And I don't eat breakfast usually. There was a piece of cheesecake left yesterday, so after I had it, I had to go for a walk. I felt so guilty. But anyway, it was good. So now I'm not doing anything for Christmas, so I have time to slim down. And we have our retreat this coming weekend, next weekend, so I got to prepare for that. But I'm not cooking. It was wonderful. Thank you. But anyway, today I was going to talk about something else, but then this morning Greta said, why don't you talk about, because somebody asked me during the class, our Spanish class, about um, fires, right? She asked whether I had sprinklers in my apartment, and I said, yes, I do. And Fire prevention is part of emergency prevention that we talk about here as a sisterhood, right? We tell the ladies how to get your emergency bag ready and how you put your emergency information in a folder and then you put it in a visible place and you put your emergency information on the inside of your front door so that if they were to find you, somebody can look on that form and see your name, your next of kin here in Panama, your next of kin in the US, and your doctor, any significant medical history, allergies, so that if they were to call the ambulance on you, and we're old, so we know something might is going to happen. It's not if, it's when, right? So we did that. Yes. And so that was very fitting now about talking about this topic. There's fires in Japan. Can you imagine? I lived through a fire. Let me tell you, I had gotten married. My son, my firstborn, was about, I want to say 11 months. We lived in an apartment building in New York. It was February. I remember this because it was cold. And then I had taken a shower and I was laying in bed reading. The baby, when we were first married, we were poor. So his crib was in the bedroom with us and he was asleep. Somebody banged on the door. I want to say it was about maybe 8 p.m. and said fire. But it was only a two-story building, so it wasn't like it was high. So I was like, what? And I'm like, what happened? He said somebody left an iron on the ironing board, and so we had to get out. My husband was at the time was in the shower. So I busted inside the shower and I'm like, get out, there's a fire, get out. So he dried himself real quick and put some clothes on out. Me, I just put a robe on that I had, thank God, that was kind of thick. And I always wear socks to bed. Well, not now. And then I put my feet in some slippers. I took a blanket, wrapped the baby in it. But in my mind, I didn't think to get my bag with my, ID and all that. Nope. I just wanted to get out. So we got out. And I remember we were standing outside in my slippers. My toes were getting frostbitten at that time. The fire department came and they were dilly dally. There was no rush. Everybody got out, thank God, and they were like nonchalantly, sending the water. And then I was watching my apartment after the smoke and the fire, and I was shaking. I was so, I had the baby in my arms. And then it was like, we were brand new, newly married, first child. We really had nothing in terms of, we didn't have insurance on our stuff. We had like a barely, um, it was like sparsely furnished apartment. I mean, things were tight because I was still in school. I was in nursing school. And I remember, we watched the apartment burn. I mean, it was just like an out of body experience, because you're young, you don't have a lot, but the little thing that you have, you're watching it go in flame. And I remember somebody said, who can we call for you? And I was like, I don't know, maybe my pastor? And somebody called Pastor Tony. You hollering at, we're old. Yes, we are old. And somebody called my pastor. Wouldn't you believe he drove over while they were still battling the fire? He picked us up, scooped us in his car, and took us to his home. My son was 11 months old, and we ended up staying with the pastor. He had a spare bedroom. We stayed there with him, I want to say for 3 months. When we went back the next day to sort through the suit and the chord, whatever, I found my purse, my little purse, And inside that little purse, I found my wallet. Everything was wet, but my ID, I was able to just lay it out in the sun and it dried up. But everything else we lost. Everything. So I was borrowing stuff from the lady and all that. Oh my gosh. It was such a humbling moment. Okay. But I remember going to the school because I had borrowed books and books because I was studying. So I found my library card. I remember these things. And I went and said, I was victim of a fire and the books burned or whatever. And she's like, really? I said, yes. And of course, the fire was in the news, the next day newspaper. Remember those days? Way back when. And I cut up the article that reported on the fire as proof and gave it to her. And because of that, I wasn't liable to replace the cost of the books. But I continued with my schooling. I stayed with my pastor and his wife for we stayed with them. And during that time, the church family that we had, they did a shower, a fire shower. And oh my God, I'm ready to cry thinking about that. They had us sitting up front in the church or in the hall. You know, they used to have a hall where they have parties and potluck dinners and stuff like that. So we sat up front, the three musketeers, me, myself. I remember my son, when people heard of the fire, people started bringing us things to so we can put clothes on. It was February. I mean, it's winter. We needed shoes, socks, underwear, and people would bring me like little pink stuff, and I had to put it on my son because that's all we had. Oh, and they brought sheets, they brought pillowcases, they brought sweaters, and I mean, we had a mound of things that the church brought. Oh my gosh, that was so hard, you know, because here I was. I think I was what? I got married at 22. Maybe I was 23. I was really young, and it was like the love that they showed to us. So my pastor did not charge us anything to stay with them. So people gave money, they donated whatever, we were able to go and then rent another apartment. So when I saw these fires in these buildings, and most of them were old people, my heart really hurt for those folks because when you have a fire, I don't know, it's a sense of somebody stripping you naked. Now, these people are older, so you know they have memories, they have pictures, they have keepsakes and things that can be replaced. I mean, we were young, so we didn't have a lot of mementos. I also found our wedding album. I'm telling you, my ring set was sitting under a dresser. I found it wrapped around a piece of burnt wood. So we found my wallet. I was able to recoup my IDs. I found my wedding band set, and I found my our picture album. What's the likelihood that we're going to find things like that in a fire? I'm telling you. Yeah, that's what the church is supposed to do. So I have a heart for people who go through stuff like that because I've been through it, right? So, yes, watching the fires in Hong Kong, horrible, horrible. And just imagine how those people would die, suffocating, can't breathe, the smoke, and horrible. And I just pray that they probably pass out from the smoke inhalation and not feeling their bodies burn. And I remember feeling the same way when we had the collapsed building in South Florida. Remember that? The big high rise just crumbled down, and then people to this day have never found their loved ones. Listen, this life can be pretty rough, okay? And here I am on the 38th floor, and I'm thinking, sometimes I think of earthquakes. Well, I can't run. Where could I go? And I'm on the 30th floor. This sister said to me in through the YouTube channel. She's like, go down and find a lower floor. And I'm like, why? She said, didn't you see the fires in Taiwan? The people who were hired are the one that got killed. I'm like, what, sis? I can't really run from my destiny. If it's my time to die in something like that, I mean, I'm not being complacent. I am in a building that there's good maintenance, thank God. And we'll talk about that at the end. Some of the things you can do to minimize your risk, right? But you can't eliminate risks. This life is risky. Just by breathing, you're at risk, right? Being a darker complexion, you know how it is in some places, you're at risk. So, anyway, so I thought it would be fitting to talk about uh, fires here and the impact that, mostly the fires I want to talk about are gas explosions. Because it was so funny when Greta mentioned that in October there was a documentary that was done by the main TV station here and TVN, and they talked about the number of gas explosions that there have been in this city. And the ones I'm going to talk to you about do not even include explosions that may happen outside of Panama City. This is just here in the city. In 2025, we've already had 3 this year alone in the city. So I want the sisters, as we try to talk about single women retiring abroad. Hello, whoever's watching on Facebook. I saw a picture, but I can't see it really well. Um, Thanks for watching and welcome. And it's something to look at when you're looking at apartment. And I know a lot of us are coming over and we're in a rush to get an apartment because the what I used to tell people, the inventory was good. I used to say, oh, don't be in a rush to get your apartment. We got plenty of inventory. I can't say that anymore. The picture is changing because of the sheer number of people coming to Panama. And people like me, you're grateful that the church was, yes, I am too. That was my familia. Wherever I go, I get plugged in with the family so that if anything happens to me, I have people to support me. And that's what we're doing here in Panama. But yes, it's very important for those coming over not to be in such a rush that you're going to, rent these raggedy buildings who are very old. And there are a lot of old buildings here in Panama. And I don't know in the city, even at home, the homes are not new. But if you don't pay attention and you don't know what kind of maintenance record that they have, so those are the things that you have to do some due diligence here, right? Because your home is your sanctuary, and it's up to you to really pay attention so that you can reduce your risks. Okay? So, again, know that the numbers I'm going to talk about here is just for the city, Panama City. Okay? Now, this reporter was talking about how many explosions, gas explosions, we have had. And they've had other fires, like in Cologne, I've had some fires. They've had fires in Caledonia, other places, but these are strictly related to gas escaping in through the lines and poof. And when they go through, it's not one floor because the lines are connected. One thing you need to know about Panama City, though, the bomberos, which is the fire department, I think each building is scheduled, it's on a 3-year schedule. Every 3 years, the whole building gets inspected by the fire department, which is a good thing. And when they do that, and this is something that some people don't know, when they shut off the gas, you can't cook, there's no hot water. All right? Excuse me. So we tell people you always have to buy one of these 2 or 3 burners, electric burners, so that you can do some kind of cooking. But yeah, no hot showers. There's a friend right now in San Francisco. Her building has been, the gas been shut off since October 6th. So to this day, she's still without gas because they have to inspect every apartment, every floor. My building has 64 floors. So if they ever, thank you. So if they ever were to come here, it will be a while. Some people go on vacation and they go stay with friends. If you can't take cold showers, all right, but be prepared for that. And the majority of the buildings in the city are gas powered. But they do have some buildings that are totally electric. That means electric stove, your shower and everything is electric. My building is electric. I don't believe that when I was looking that was something that was important to me, but I'm grateful, right? Because the landlady who lives in the building too, she said they had a fire, and I think it was a fire that was in El Congrejo via Argentina in 2022. I think I was here when that happened on one of my trips, and one older woman died. Now, not every explosion causes death, but there's structural damage, some injuries, and if you can imagine, if you have major burns, that's a disability. So, like I said, in 2025, we already had one in La Chorrera. We had one in Tumba Muerto, that wasn't too long ago. And then the most recent one, I think last week, was in Pueblo Nuevo. All right. So for my building, the landlady said after the fire in Villa Argentina, because in this building, it's like a condo association, right? That means they have multiple owners and they pay fees for maintenance. And then they have meetings where they talk about, like right now, they're going through some renovation and kind of uh, aesthetics. They painted. Now they are buffering all the floors. So I kind of like that. And I keep saying, go change the equipment in the gym. I did ask one of the owners. They said, "Oh yeah, that's on the list." I'm like, "Oh, okay." So they decided at that time that it would go all electric, and I was like, "Oh, thank you." So I would implore my sisters, if you are just coming in and you're an older woman or not, and you're concerned about what we're talking about today, that you do your due diligence and choose an all electric building. Now, you may have an electric fire, right? And in our home back in the US, we do get gas explosion. You have home, it's like boom, a house or home somewhere gets blown up, but you can have an electrical fire. And we know, especially now around the holidays, with overloaded lines and circuits, right? We get electrical fires. So that is still a possibility. But I have told the sisters who are living in gas powered building to at least get their own fire extinguisher. You can buy one. I went to Do It Center, and you can get one like this tall. It will fit under your sink, and you can use it for grease fires in your kitchen. One of the sisters lived in Costa del Este, and there was a fire in one city. It wasn't a gas explosion, but there was a fire. in one of the buildings, and her neighbor came and knocked on her door, and they had to go find the fire extinguisher for each floor has one. And then they were able to go and put the fire that happened in that neighbor's kitchen. So there is value in having your own, fire extinguisher, and I would do that. All right. So, what did the report says? The other thing also that was mentioned is that those explosions cause a lot of pain. Imagine if people had bought, like the people in Hong Kong, you bought an apartment maybe 10, 20 years ago, that's your only asset, and then it gets burned to the ground. I don't know how well the insurance claiming system works here. And being in Panama, I don't think it would be, because they interviewed some family members who are still waiting to see if there is a judgment or, compensation. So if you lose your home, you're kind of homeless. A family member is going to have to take you in, and it's like starting over. So there is a very big financial cost to that. In addition to several of these people had to be flown to the U.S. for burn treatment and cosmetic surgery. Now, I'm a nurse. I never worked in the burn unit, and I don't think I would want to work in the burn unit because when I was training, I remember them taking me to a burn unit. And when they were taking the dressing off these people, the crying, it was such a raw, because it's like taking the dressing off raw skin, and the pain that these people were in was crazy. And then remember that the way God created your body, anything that's artificial is never as good as the original. Okay? So they can do plastic surgery all they want, but the one that they replace is never as flexible, pliable. So you've seen people faces and it is like plastic and you couldn't even smile naturally, but at least, and then it's very stiff. They always had to do a lot of therapy because it's like that skin, that new, the graft did not stretch as well as your natural skin. So it's an ongoing issue. All right. So the fire department said to that reporter that most of those gas fires were caused by faulty connections. Connections meaning whatever the connection they go between floors, inside the wall that we don't see. Now, I don't know if they use those little tanks that I used to see in the US. I don't know if they have those underneath, the sink. What they used to call these things, gas cylinders, right? I don't know if they use that, but sometimes the valve is not tight. Whoo, that's crazy. That's scary right there. Faulty connections. The second cause, they say, is cylinders in poor condition. So yes, they must use the cylinders, right? Poor condition. Improper handling of the valves. I remember this lady here, this landlord, she had one guy, she called him his handyman. And she's like, oh, he does everything, right? That means he does plumbing, he does electric, he does construction. What? How can he be an expert in all these things? So, someone like that, I would not trust him to do a gas inspection or to handle the valve correctly. So, you need to have people who are trained and qualified. And what they're saying, you can have Uncle Joe say, oh, I'll come and fix and change the tank for you. And he doesn't know how to do it properly. And then that increases the risk, and everybody's at risk. Because when you're in an apartment building, my building has 64 floors. We have 4 apartments per floor, 4 times 65, It's like a lot of apartments, and you don't know how many people are in each one. So it's a lot of people, lots of lives at risk if one person doesn't do it. two buildings from my building. One day I was standing at the bus stop across the street, and I looked up. Somebody said, "Look," and there was a fire on the top floor. I don't think they put that in the list. I didn't see that one here because she told me yes, it was due to a gas leak. And we looked up on the very top floor. I mean, it was fire raging. It wasn't just smoke. I mean, you could see the flame. I'm like, oh my God. And then this guy said, and donde están los bomberos? Where are the bomberos? Oh, they're taking their time. So when that happened, they shut off the gas and everybody needs to evacuate and they have to do their inspection and decide. Yes, there was one here. So that's four this year. Oh my God. So gas fires, faulty connections, cylinders in poor conditions, and improper handling of the valves. Okay? All right. So they started counting how many explosions they've had from 2010. Well, they might have had more. Like I said, these numbers do not reflect home fires. These pretty much happen in the high rises, the PHs, right? Except for one, the one in La Chorrera, I think it was a plant. All right. So in 2010, Matrix Tower, oh, I forgot to put where that one was. 5 deaths. 5 deaths. And then you have injuries. That's somebody's mama, somebody's child. In 2011, they had one in San Miguelito. In San Miguelito, it's a large area of the city. It was an electrical fire. And they said this 8-year-old tried to save his little, or her little, it was a girl, little brother, and died. Okay? And then the child that she was trying to save got burns, suffer burns. In 2017, Mystic Village in Don Bosco. Don Bosco is a corregimiento here, which means an area of Panama City. And in that one, they had structural damage. They didn't say they had any deaths for that one. 2017, Betania, which is another area of Panama City, 2Cs, they had a gas explosion. They didn't say there were any deaths. But what happens in those gas explosions, as I said, it doesn't affect your build, your floor only. It goes through up and down, right? Because the gas lines are inside the walls. So the damage can be multiple floors. And then when you think structural damage, the floor could cave in, the stairwell could be messed up. You got water. I mean, can you imagine the mess? Let's say here, 64 floors. If you had a fire on my floor, 38. So 37 could be affected, and a bunch of them down because all the water the bomberos are going to use is going to seep down. So, it's a mess. It's a mess. All right, in 2018, Eden Plaza, I don't know what that one was. Gas explosion, structural damage, serious injury. That means burn, broken bones, you name it, right? 2019, there was a gas explosion in, I can't read my handwriting. One 10-month-old got killed, and the mother suffered burns because you got to try to save your babies, right? And that child had to be flown to the US for treatment of the burns. I wonder if they sent the helicopter to get him or special airplane. Now, sometimes after these explosions, you can find an attorney that will they would call the police and then said that there was negligence, maybe the building didn't have good enough safety record, or they didn't have the schedule, they didn't follow this, and that happens a lot. Because if they say you suppose, yes, it gives you pause. If they say you're supposed to do this every 6 months, and even if they write it down, does it mean it was done? I don't know. I don't know. So you have that human element to deal with. Are people being truthful? Or they say, well, I better sign it in case we get audited. Um, so they'll sometimes would bring on manslaughter charges, right? On the owners, the administration, and charge them with negligence. But again, I don't know if they have a Morgan and Morgan here, even though I've heard his name thrown around during the election. So I don't know how timely, um, these are done, and if there is any judgment. Are these people getting compensated? Like I said, I saw a woman being interviewed during this program, and she said, "Oh, I think it's the one who died, Dia Argentina, 2022." She said, "Oh, we're still waiting." It's only 3 years, so she might have to wait longer. No bueno. 2020 PH Mystic Tower in Rio Abajo, which is another area of Panama City, Corregimiento. That's where you find this a large Jamaican population in Rio Abajo. Okay, that's kind of a Afro-Panamanian section of the city, and that's where they have, like, when they do etnia negra, they have really they have a nice parade every year, and they have some nice restaurant. In fact, Big Will says there is the best oxtail fonda over there, but he's not telling the name, so I don't eat meat, so I'm okay. But I know, I said, I thought Via Argentina had the best oxtail. He said no. So you want Jamaican food, you can go here if you can go all the way to Colon, okay? Rio Abajo. In that explosion there, 2 women died. One minor with severe burns had to go to the US again for plastic surgery. Those are those are lives being lost. This is crazy. Oh my God, I didn't know there were that many. All right, in 2022, PH Urbana in Obarrio. Now, Obarrio is an area, I go to a restaurant there sometimes. I don't eat out a lot, but our restaurant where we have our monthly meetup is in Obarrio. Now, one thing to look at when I look at Panama City, and I say, some of the buildings are old, right? And when you have old building, you have faulty wires, you have some structural things. If they're not being maintained, they become a hazard. So yes, I can see the whole city being at risk for these things. Okay? So I'm telling you this not to scare you, but just to say, when you hear somebody telling you you can find an apartment for $450 a month here in the city, you better do your homework, okay? Because that's being passed around. People think they can come here and live on $1,000 a month. When they asked me, I said, I don't think so. You might have to go outside the city and find something cheaper. But then again, if you get somebody's home, those homes that are flat on the ground, you go to Boquete, every year the rain comes, water, I mean, it's like a deluge. You get mudslides and all kinds of things. So I don't know how safe those homes are. And I'm not a handyman. I'm not a handy woman. I can tell you that right now. So if you choose to go and live in those places, you have to do your due diligence and hire professionals to do inspections before you get in and afterwards. Now, I never liked gas stove because when I came here, the building that I was at in El Carmen, the first one, it used gas. So first of all, it took me a little while to find the little lighter and go and turn it on because I was scared of it. And then she's like, "Oh, you can do the same thing with the stove and with the oven." I'm like, "Oh, that's okay. I'm good." So I didn't bake anything the whole time I was there. No, I'm not doing it because I'm scared. Yes, I'm scared. I don't play around with stuff like that. So that's why I like my building. I just push a button, it's electric. All right, two people died. That is so sad. And they said the fire department said it was due to gas valve manipulation. Probably just Joe Blow down the street said, "Oh, I can come and fix it for you," and then he fixed it. So manipulation. It wasn't by somebody who is trained. And they do have, I remember walking down the street from where my house is, a couple of street down, and then they have like places where, they're not bomberos, but they like deal with fire safety. Yes, I can go in there and say, is there somebody I can hire who can come and check my line? Even though you can do everything right, what about the neighbors around you? What about the people above and you see where it's a problem? It's like when you live in New York City, you could say, "Oh, yeah, I spray." But if a place has roaches and you're in an apartment building, your little spraying is going to do nothing. Because if the people around you are not doing the same thing, you know that. You know what I'm saying. It doesn't work. So in Obarrio, they say it was a large gas explosion, more than 20 people injured, but no deaths. Thank you. There was perforation in the gas escape system. And sometimes it could be that the system is just old. Things need to be replaced. In my apartment here, there are two old AC units in the wall. Every time it messes up, I looked at it. I'm like, Senora, these things are so old, they need to be replaced. You think she'll replace them? No. So if it's electric, I could have an electric fire in there to no fault of my own, right? Yes, you have the electric stove and I can have the hot water, but you're not fixing an old unit. And age is a risk factor because the wires are not strong, especially with those two units. They've been manipulated for so long. But I'm at the mercy of this lady. She refuses. And I go in the store and I'm like, they're not even that expensive. I'm paying you every month all this money. Greed. Greed. The lady owns 4 units. So she's a millionaire. But that's why she's a millionaire, right? They don't want to spend the money to do anything. Oh my goodness. We're in trouble, seriously. All right. 2022. The building on Via Argentina. Gas explosion. One older woman died. This is the one whose daughter was talking. 2025. So 23, 24, there's nothing reported. 25, it was a gas explosion in La Chorrera. It was a transformer that blew up. Those we get, sometimes. Those are accidents. 2025, Alcena Tower, Tumba Muerto. I saw that in the news not too long ago. This is the one. There is a woman, I think she was a doctor. When the explosion happened, she tried to save her son and her mother. She got them out and she died. How many times, people trying to save someone drowning and then they die? Same thing. Same thing. I've had gas stove most of my life, but in Panama, I would want electric. All right. So one woman died, and then there was a child. I guess her child that she saved and her mother got burned. They got burned, so they had to be treated. All right. And like I say, the one that was next to me in the Element building, I don't see it listed here. And then there's a sister who lives there. She said, yes, it was probably gas. But I think what the program was about is like, why are they having so many explosions here in the city? So somebody needs to either reinforce the rules, because I don't know, every 3 years, it's like a long time to do an inspection of this building, don't you think? 3 years, a lot can happen in 3 years. And then these owners need to be held accountable to replace, maintain the lines, not hire unqualified people, and people who don't ask Blow Joe down the street to come and mess with your cylinders. But some people just are not thinking along those lines because you want to save a buck. You don't want to hire someone qualified. Like I said, go to that place that says fire safety. I saw several companies listed. Hire those people. If I had gas in my building, like I said, I'm at the mercy of the lady with the units because she will not, and I can't take it upon myself to change it, right? So I could have an electrical fire, but if I had gas, before I get in, I would hire a professional to come check it, and then I would say, "How about you put me on a every 6 months routine and put it in your phone, your calendar, and have them come and check it." That's what you can do. And again, it may not shield you 100%. I'm not shielded, even though I have electric. I just told you, I have old units, AC unit that they've taken the things out and screwed on and on. And the handyman that she had, he doesn't have any papers to say he's an electrician. And I say, Lord, if anything happens, just knock me out. Let me hit my head somewhere. And if I see the smoke, let me get close so I can have the smoke inhalation and just pass out. No, because you're at the mercy of this system. Every 3 years, I think it's too long. People need to be held accountable, some kind of safety standard. But we have decided to move to a developing country. So we don't know. And you know how you hear about all the fires in like explosion in India and Pakistan and all these things, the factories. They cut corners. People want to make money, but they don't want to spend money. And who's in the middle? The humans. We're expendable. We are expendable. So just know that when you come, this is the risk you're facing. Now, we face risk everywhere, right? A lot of us are very happy that we don't have to be harassed by the police and we can close our eyes and sleep in peace and walk in peace. Yes, that is true. Yes, 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 yes. But this is a real risk that we don't have a whole lot of control over. We don't. So as I said, okay, let's see some of the things that I wrote. Some of the things you might do, as I said, yeah, I think it should be once a year too. But there are so many of them. I think what it should be, the thing is they want the bomberos, they want the firemen to do it. But I'm sure if somebody had a business that is managed by firemen and make sure the people are trained correctly, private business could do it on the side and not just depend on the bombero. The bomberos are just, it's a country, fire department is a state country program, right? All right. Check for leaks regularly. That's what I mean by hiring. I would hire somebody on the side to come and say, just check this. And you have no business touching cylinders, opening, closing. No, leave it alone. Leave it to the experts, right? If you smell anything, carbon monoxide is odorless, but the other gas, sometimes you go into somebody's home. I remember back in the States, I would say, you smell gas, right? If you smell gas, turn everything off and have someone come and check it out. Okay? Um, do not tamper with the valves. I would not, nor would I let my neighbor come. Oh, I know how to do it. No, thank you. No, no. All right? Only trained personnel. Ventilate your kitchen. You don't want a lot of heat in your kitchen. Some of the kitchens have fans. Turn that on, especially if you're into frying and it gets really hot. Ventilate your kitchen. Like my kitchen is open. So if I'm cooking, there is no concentrated air here. So it's open, the window's open, the AC's on, the fan's on, so there's ventilation. Okay? Use gas and smoke detectors. My You know how in my home in the US, I'm sure your home as well, you have smoke detectors. I have one close to my bedroom. There's one in the kitchen. I think there's one somewhere else. I don't see any here. But they do have the water valve that if there is like, I guess you hope that it would automatically, the sprinklers would come on. But that doesn't help a gas explosion, right? The gas explosion, if, well, after the fire starts, yeah, I guess, yeah, it would. But it doesn't prevent it. It's not a preventative measure. It's just treating the fire and calming, it down. So, smoke detectors, I have one on the corner of my kitchen counter. I have a smoke detector and I have a carbon monoxide detector, even though I'm not using gas. But if you use gas, you should have a carbon monoxide detector in your kitchen. Put one in your bedroom too, because that's how people die. You guys have heard the people who have died. Hi, Gregory. What you're saying is so true. I was just talking to my husband about this. Listen, we cannot stick our head in the sand. Okay, we have to attack things head on and do our part. And if I were in a building, I would go to the administration and ask, how often do you have these lines checked? Or is it just the every 3 years? Because if you are a owner, remember, they're all motivated by profit. And they're going to say, oh no, the law says only every 3 years. Yes, I know what the law says. But if you're concerned about the people living in your building, you probably should have it once a year, but they don't want to part with that money. So in this building here, because it's like a co-op and it's almost like a condo association, I would hope it's in the bylaws, right? But I'm not an owner, so I don't know what's written in the bylaws. But I know the human element is profit, profit, profit. Yeah. Um, Water sprinklers. Go into your apartment and see if you see water sprinklers anywhere in the ceilings, okay? And sometimes there are fires and the fire sprinklers don't work. I don't know. There is a way for them to say, okay, let's see if they work, because then you have water everywhere. So you just hope and pray. Oh my God, this is crazy. Report any orders to administration. I would call somebody and then call administration, right? Have somebody check it yourself. And then again, have the fire extinguishers. Again, if it's an explosion, I don't know how much assistance that's going to provide you, but at least it gives you the satisfaction to know that if there's a grease fire in your kitchen, you can, extinguish it rather rapidly. Like I said, this sister who the neighbor called, they both had to go find it. I found my fire extinguisher for my floor. I had to go out of my bed, my apartment, cross the hall, open the door, which is where the trash receptacle is, and that's where I found the fire extinguisher. So you need to find out where your fire extinguisher is on your floor so you have access to it, and go to Do It Center and buy your own. I think it's like $40. Listen, this is an investment in your life, and you can order those smoke detectors, carbon monoxide. I ordered them at Amazon before I came. Now you can have Amazon delivered to you here in Panama. You have no excuse. I think the carbon monoxide there's not a way for me to change the battery. but the smoke detector does. And even I bought a compact one. Whenever I travel, wherever I go, those two go in my carry-on. I always carry that with me. You know how many of these people died in Mexico from carbon monoxide poisoning, right? Several. And when you book an Airbnb, I have yet to find one that says they have smoke detectors. It's always crossed off. They don't have it. Bring your own. Bring your own. Because that's another thing. If all these Airbnbs and we are all in these buildings, again, you have owners who are business minded. And most business people do not really care so much about you, the consumer. It's a sad thing to say, but this is how businesses run. They cut corners wherever they can. So don't tell me, oh, I trust my landlord. Okay. All right. But anyway, that's what I have for you today. I'll take questions because it is a real risk when you come here that most of the buildings are gas powered. So that's why I tell the sisters, if your lease is coming up and you're thinking of moving your next apartment, at least try to get all electric and then ask for the age of the building. The older, the more the risk of gas explosion and faulty wires causing electrical fires. My building, I believe, was built in 2014. I think I would be very leery to move into anything that is older than 20 years old. I would. But that's me. I am not telling anybody what to do. All I can do is give you the information. And this information I just told you, I just got it off the TV and website. So it's not my information. This is from the TV station, and whenever they're talking about data, I take their information because I know they've done their homework. Okay, so that saves me time. All right, any question, guys? They could contract the job out. Yes, they could, but they have to want to do it, right? And why wait until you have a fire and people die? And some people don't care if you die. Listen, they consider that collateral damage. I remember in the nursing homes I used to work at. In the budget, they had a line. Even the hospital, I was on the board. They budget for being sued and how they settle out of court. And every month, when we would be going over financial, they'll say, "Oh, we settled this one out, that one out, that one out." That is just a line item. So it doesn't phase them. That is part of doing business. That's how they think about it. Decency is not fair game any longer. People don't care about you. So you can just watch out for yourself and try to keep yourself as safe as you possibly can. As I said, you cannot get rid of all the risks altogether. You can only control what you can. It must be one of those trucks out there. The music starting to pop. Yesterday was Independence Day. There was nothing, nada, no fireworks, no desfile. I don't know. And this morning I woke up. I'm like, what happened? Why did they cancel the parade? I have no idea. All right, guys. Do you have any question? I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but you can't stick your head in the sand and say, "Oh, I didn't know." And this is not even caused by the people who are a little bit mentally challenged, leaving like a grease thing on the pot. This is not even that. I'm sure they have some of those too. These are just from faulty wires and leaks and explosion. But you have all sorts of fire. The fire in my apartment started because somebody went to work and left iron on the board, and then after a few hours, it just lit up. Ooh, they have a reggae. Now, what's the YouTube police tell me that I can't, monetize this video because I'm violating somebody's music. I'm like, it wasn't me. I'm not playing their music. Will there be any parade for the last day of November? Tomorrow? No. We have the next parade for Christmas. Christmas parade, December 14th. But yesterday, no fireworks. That was the 28th. Separation from, not separation, independence from Spain. I don't know what happened. Something happened. This was so good. These are the things many don't think about. And exactly, you're right, Gregory, because we are so anxious to get here. First of all, like I was telling this girl from my class, she's coming next week. And then people are giving her a video tour of the apartment. I said, listen, you come, go to an Airbnb, do not sign a lease until you've looked at the apartment. Check. And I give her, I have my apartment checklist. I'm not check it. Don't go by the video because sometimes those pictures do not show you the real thing. So, and that's the same thing. Is it electric? How often do they check? How old are the appliances? How old is the building? What kind of renovations have been done? Was the electrical system ever changed, or is it the one from 1961? hmm I am looking to see if you guys have any question on owners need to be held to a higher standard. Yeah, we know. But again, you're in a strange country. You don't know how the systems work. And in Panama, it's a lot of who you know, who you know, who you know. So the wheels of justice probably move very slowly. And I'm not speaking from a point of something that I know, but you read comments and it is what it is. Like I told you, sometimes you're watching the news and you see in some of these countries, a building, they had construction, building collapse. Like this fire in Hong Kong, they say they think the owners of the building were using shoddy material around the building. So they held three people in custody. They have them in custody, and some of them are the owners or managers. But why do we have to wait till a tragedy? But before it was just business as usual, right? Got to save a buck. You have 20 million? No, you want a billion? Yeah, 20 million. What's that? That's pocket change. Yes, that's fine, Monica. Please do. Yeah. Oh, what topic, Greta? Yeah, I can't get into the politics of the country because I wouldn't be speaking from a point of knowledge, and I don't want to do that. But we know that in your own country, do some owners, maintain their buildings? No, people die all the time. And it's always the poor, the innocents that end up dying. Yeah, but I think after a gas explosion, okay, after a gas explosion, and you have burns, that's major. You lose your belongings, the mental thing that it does to you to survive a fire, and if you have burns that you're never going to be the same again, you can put a price on that. No. Yeah, well, that is true. The love of money, but nowadays it's more than ever, right? Let's screw the little poor people about their SNAP benefits and money. Who needs that? I need more money to add to my millions and billions. Yes, that is what Keeps the world going around. Yep, it's in vogue these days. I mean, I'm thinking, I said to God, you know what? I think I could enjoy $5 million because more than that, I'd be so worried. I'd be fretting. I'd be worried. I wake up the next day and I'm down to 4 million. That's what you do when you're so rich. This guy, they have all these master classes, and I'm thinking, there is one. He talks about power. He said, "Don't resent power. Learn to dominate it or something." And I think I'd like to take this one because even when I was in business, I said I started to see the price of success. I used to hire salespeople who were on commission, and like some of these girls, they would have to go into the doctor's office to get a referral. And it was funny how sometimes they'll say, someone like me would go in and say, "I'd like to see Dr. So and so," and they said, "Please have a seat." I said, "Have a seat," and I'm sitting here patiently reading something on my phone, and then the little blonde come bobbing up, "Boop, boop, boop, boop," and I'm like, "Oh!" And she goes right in there, and I'm sitting there, you know. I was like, okay, I see. And I don't know what happens in there when she gets in that office. I had a cardiologist who was sleeping around everybody. And I'm like, you don't even know, has he been tested? Have you been tested? And then, he's got a wife. The wife can catch something from him. I mean, nasty stuff. But after the fact, yeah, you get a few referral. And I don't want anybody having to put up with that. And then it was other things too, in a contract. Sometimes you kind of bend the rules, you're supposed to do this, you don't do it. And I started writing on the wall. And I said, you know what? I respect myself too much because I think I have to join this club because you know how it is. Business deals are made on the golf course, on the fishing trips, and it's not in the boardroom, it's not in the office, and everybody knows who's sleeping with who. And I said, you know what? I'm just not wired for this, and I am not willing to pay that price. And when I had a water emergency at my place, I had water everywhere. I'm like, you know what? I'm done. So I put it up for sale, and this company um, from a hospital system came and I sold it because I said I cannot sell myself. I cannot look at myself in the mirror every day and know I'm doing these underhanded things so my balance sheet can look good. I said I'm not doing it. Those are decisions that you have to make for yourself. And in Hollywood, you heard about some people who say, well, they were interviewing Lupita Nyong'o this week. She's talking about the stuff they started to associate with her, and she had to keep your integrity sometimes. You have to say no to stuff. But I like to be able to look at myself in the mirror and say, yeah, I like you. That's more important to me than millions of dollars. I'm not doing it. And right now, I'm just too old. But you have to have a certain amount of ethics that is wrapped around your persona, right? So that you can feel good about yourself. But if you get to the point where you're so into it, and that's when you lose yourself and you're like, everybody's doing it. What's your problem? That's why the Jeffrey Epstein thing, when these actresses come around and say, he did this, he did that, they say, what did you expect? That's the way you to go up. You should know. That's why when my son started saying he wanted to be an actor, and I went down in my closet and I got on my knees and I'm like, Lord, do not let that happen. To this day, he said, you didn't want me to succeed. You got right. Because I knew once you get in that, they suck you in. You remember that little boy, little Nas? Did you watch him? I'm like, that's somebody's child. Oh my God. So I prayed. Well, he's got a job. And I'm like, thank God, thank you. You listened this time. Yes. When you get sucked into that Hollywood dark tunnel, sucks you in. Oh, no, 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 no. Mm-mm. Nope. Probably things that you aren't interested in doing. No. The price of success in this crazy world. So you cannot say, well, I didn't know. Well, you should know. The money is good, but there's a price to pay. There's always a price to pay. Yes. So when I see a billionaire or whatever, and I'm like, I wonder. There's always a price to pay. Always. A wealth mindset would teach us that investments will grow our wealth. The more we have, the more good we can do. Yeah, that's true. Invest your funds and receive dividend, rental income, and live off the residual. I don't want to be a landlord. Maybe, yeah, the investment definitely. Oh yes, girl. Let me tell you, that's when you kind of take your bandana, whatever, off. You go in your closet. My daughter, the last one, I had to get in my closet too. And then when the deliverance came, listen, listen. So what we're going through right now, you better go in your closet. And it has to be a collective effort. It can be one or two of us. That's the only thing that's going to break that bond. That's the only power we have. But people who haven't experienced it do not understand the power that is at their disposal, right? So if you've never experienced it, you can't come to someone and say, okay, let me tell you what happened when. Boom. But if you're so busy making money, you're going to miss that. So what is it that the Bible says? What does it get? What does it? Whatever to get the whole world and lose your soul. So if I'm rich and my kids are out there lost and just in there with the whole mess, how does that make me feel as a mom? I'm not impressed with being rich and driving fancy cars and buying apartments here for $1 million when my kids are just out there acting the fool. No, no, no. Your power, your lasting, what is it? What's the word they say? What you leaving behind, the name you keeping for your children, your grandchildren. Oh, somebody tell me that word. Your legacy. Yes. What will your legacy be? I don't want people to say, oh, she was so rich and she drove this. What does that do? And if God gives you money, you need to be able to invest and give it. You can't take it with you. So I tell him, I say, I would manage it. Why don't you give me maybe 5 million? He said, no, no, no. Because they'll say, you probably lose your mind and change on me. We're not doing that. And I'm like, oh, okay. I got property manager managing my house. I just don't like being landlord at all because when I get the note that say, oh, this needs to be changed, that needs to be changed, I'm like, I don't like that. Definitely time to fast and oh my God, yes. If you don't believe in the power of fasting and praying, you have to experience it. There's another word that says there is a certain type of bondage, some type of a grasp that can only be broken but by fasting and praying. So that's why when somebody say, oh, let's pray that this goes away, pray for the family. But listen, you can't be playing with that stuff. And even if you go into Eastern medicine, not medicine, Eastern religions or whatever, when people fast, it kind of elevates you. You kind of reach like a different realm, seriously. Because after a few days of fasting, something happens to your body and your mind, and you just in a different spot. All right. But you got to fast with a purpose. All right. With something specific in mind. And these children nowadays, oh my God, you never stop fasting and praying. Okay. Trust me on that. Yes. What does it profit a man to gain the whole world and lose his soul and your family or your children? That's my thing. I can't rest if my kids are messing up out there. I can't be, you know what I mean? You have to come, and God, who knows what He's doing, if you kind of puffed up, it kind of brings you down a few pegs by giving you some crazy children. Some of these children would take you down if you let them. Seriously. You know what I'm talking about. There is no profit, no ma'am. Woo. But you know, when you're young, and as I said that, we're so busy on that wheel of trying to attain, to get, to achieve. We don't, who has time to fast? Because you get up every day, go, 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 go. 11, 12 o'clock, you crash into bed. Weekends, oh, you got to get ready for the next week. Go, 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 go. Nobody has time for it. Come on, you can't live like this. Look at what happened to Target, the power of the people. Yeah, yeah. And I talk about Black Friday, blackout. I was never, ever a Black Friday shopper. I always said there is nothing in these stores that I need that I would make me go stand at 5 a.m. to go get a television or a toy for a child. Never. I've never been in the stores on Good Friday. So I'm like, well, that doesn't apply to me at all. Hello, Cynthia. How are you? I know I'm preaching right now. We had a conversation about fires and explosion in Panama. Oh my God. I have always been adamant that I'm not for sale. There's definitely a cost associated with assuming that stands. Yes, ma'am. I have paid dearly more than once. Oh, good. But you know what? It's never too late to have learned from your mistakes. But the people who keep repeating them, it's like, what's wrong with you? Fasting for at least 3 days. Oh, I'm glad somebody knows that. I'm telling you, after 3 days of fasting, you feel different. The amount of power that you feel is, unless you've experienced it, you don't know. So, whatever the issue is, now I'm doing my part. You know, I'm a problem solver. It's like, okay, ABC, what can I do? But once I realize it's out of my hand and I've done everything, it's like, God, now it's in your hand. And let me get in my closet. In my closet. You know, I'm here in this place. You know, you out there in the middle of the living room, you got your hands raised and you naming, you claiming, I mean seriously. You have to get that power back. Yes. I jumped off the wheel. Huh? At the end of the day, I am able to look at myself in the mirror without wanting to vomit. Aw, it's been worth it knowing that I have been intentional about not dishonoring God. It's worth it. But you know what? I think sometimes if you say, well, why do I need to put myself through all that? And again, I'm thinking, your legacy. Listen, the Bible said that, you know, He would pour a blessing upon you, your generation, after. Because sometimes I see some kids going through things and I'm like, I wonder what the elders before them did. So you can't be thinking about your life in terms of just you. Your kids, your grandkids are going to inherit all that mess that you're leaving behind. So don't do it just for you, do it for them. But if you're like, oh, I don't care, well, I can help you there, sis. I can't. I can relate to everything you're talking about, especially with the children. I was just talking about that earlier. Listen, some of these children will kill you, take you to the grave, okay? Let me tell you, if you allow it. But you have to make sure you've done your work with them. You know what I used to tell my kids? I used to say, listen, and as you kind of grow, you get to be a little wiser, and you try to live a good enough life in front of them. And I remember one of them used to say, well, you just want me to be perfect. No, what is wrong with wanting you to keep a straight line? But they didn't, of course. But it was like, you know what? After a certain age, I have tried my best to teach you right and wrong. And I said, once you're grown, hands off, dear. It's up to you. But know that every decision has consequences, even in our lives now, right? And I'm not coming to save you. I used to tell them, I'm not going to save you, because if you make the decision, you got to get yourself out of it. I'm going to pray for God to cover you while you're going through it. But the only way you're going to grow into a strong human being is to learn from your decisions that you made. And even to the very last one, oh my God, it was in the closet. But then this year, we had a breakthrough. Woo! You never stop shedding tears for these children. And I don't think shedding tears is a negative. I don't. I think it keeps you human. It keeps you in touch with reality. It keeps your heart tender. Because if I get to the point where I say, I don't really care about him, you can do whatever you want, I don't know that a mother can say that about their child. I know some people don't. I can't relate to that, because your child is still part of you. So if they're going through something, it's going to affect you. So you got to constantly pour into them. It doesn't mean you're going to try to solve their problem. That's not what I'm saying. Remember, I tell them, you make the decision, you got to deal with it. I can support you, but I'm not going to fix it for you. But you go in that closet and you at it, you fasting. Like the Bible says, you can break that bond. Satan is after your kids. He knows he can't get to me, but he goes to them because they're weaker. So you can't come to me with money, sex, notoriety. It's like you missed that boat, buddy. You better go to the next one. So he's like, oh, I'll show you. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. So you got to be a praying woman. You have got to be I don't know. I don't know how anybody survived this world without faith. I don't know. I'm telling you, I don't know. And that's how a lot of us lose our mind, and we're on all kind of medicine because we're not anchored into something. I'm not a pastor, by the way. This is just experience. We had a sister here this week. They were calling to say, somebody needs to say grace. And I'm like, what's somebody else? And this sister said, we all didn't know I was ordained. And I'm like, ooh, okay. I'm not. I jumped off the hamster wheel of being busy. Oh, so good. Oh, that's Greta. I listen to my body, I talk to my body and give gratitude. Yes, yes. But a lot of us got to that point after years of self abuse, right? Because we believe the lie of success and busyness. Yes. Tears are prayers. The Lord's faithfulness is unparalleled, but you got to grasp at it. Yes. You have to grow your children strong to believe in themselves. Yes. But you know what, sis? Sometimes you do everything you're supposed to do with those kids and they still turn out rotten. You know what I'm talking about. So when I see a mom bragging about their kids, about how well they're doing, and I'm like, oh, I'm so happy for you, sis. But it's not the same for every praying mom. Sometimes those of us who are at the altar, we're the ones fighting the battle with. Thankfully, it's not every single child. I had a sister who had three kids, two boys and one girl, and two other boys went straight, both in jail. So she's going to see this one this week, that one that week. And the Lord blessed her with the last one, a girl who was doing everything. So it's just like the wound is open, but it's giving you like a balm to put on it so you don't lose it altogether, right? But her heart was broken. And I read about this woman, they were interviewing her, praying woman, Christian, serving the church. I mean, raising this child, one child that they had. You know, they poured everything they knew. But you know, these kids, because you raise them in church, that's when they go opposite. We don't want any of this stuff you're talking about. So this guy, this young man ended up, he went to the service. I don't know which armed force department, whatever he was in. And then he finished and then he came back home. You know, I have two boys and I used to pray. I'm like, I look around and I'm like, oh boy, I tell you, I think these boys are going to be coming home with a woman with some children. I shouldn't have said it. One of them married one with three or four children. And then this lady said, this guy, her son, started going out with this woman who had two children. And of course, she was married to a bum and they got into a divorce. So he was in love with this woman with the children. And this is the norm these days, isn't it? So I think there were things that happened, and the two girls, were saying something about maybe the dad was touching them or something. So the guy who is dating their mom, was disturbed and upset and angry. And one day, I think this guy met the ex of the girlfriend's ex, in some kind of garage. They exchanged words, and the guy with the military background went into his car, got out his, you know what, and bang, one shot killed him. One split second of not controlling your emotion. That's something I talk to my kids a lot about. I say, do you know how many people are on death row because of one wrong decision, a split second decision? Instead of walking away, counting backwards from 10, taking some deep breath, you let your manhood take over. So he was in jail, convicted, life. So you have this Christian couple who thought everything was right with them and God, that they had served him. And that one child now is serving a last life sentence. My God, I'm driving, listening to this woman. I'm bawling listening to her because I'm a mother. I know what that would do to me. But she said inside the jail, he made like, you know how they go and ask to be released early. I forgot what they say that again, because of good behavior or whatever. And every time he tried an appeal, right? Every time he tried, they strike it down. They say, nope, 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 nope. So I think he's exhausted all his appeals. and he knows he's going to spend the rest of his life inside. So now he decided to change his life inside, went to Bible study, and now he is preaching to the other inmates inside. So you never know what kind of curveball this crazy life is going to throw you. The difference is, how do you handle it? Do you let it crush you or do you rise? It's not easy. It's not easy. And these children and us, we make some bad decisions sometimes. One mistake, yes. I am grateful of my four adult children are doing well. That's wonderful, sis. And typically don't cut up at all the same time. That's good. I love how praying people walk in knowledge of knowing. Yes, ma'am. You have to grow your children. Yes. But I think if I see someone with some, what you perceive to be some good children, I rejoice for them because I see the parents who are struggling. It's like I tell people, my tears are never far too far away. This in this crazy, I'm watching the news or I'm hearing something and here my heart is grief. We never get out of the grief process. You watch the news and you grieve again. You hear something, you grieve. My little nephew was tased to death in Orlando. You grieve constantly. Every family goes through it. The challenge is, do you let it break you or do you go down fighting to the end? And only you can decide that. It has to be, I'm not going to roll over and curl up. No, I'm going to go down fighting. Yes. Whew. All right, ladies. That was a lot. How did I get on that? I don't know. How did I get on that? Yes, Auntie. He was 30. He was having, like we've heard before, he was having a mental health episode. And his poor mom called the cops. And, after he died, she had such guilt. If I didn't call them, it would broke that family. I'm telling you, it broke us. But we had to get up. We had to continue living. Yes. You know what? We all going through something. If it's not medical, it's something familiar. It could be jobs. It could be. And I think I always remember this pastor of mine. He said, Maggie, life is littered with pain, with glimpses of happiness. So if you have a happy moment, it's a glimpse. Grasp it while you can because that tragedy is right around the corner waiting for you. So if you're not ready on the inside, you're just going to say, oh, it's too much. I can't. And some people just give in and give up. And that's what you try to teach your children, how to withstand. At the job, my daughter was telling me, there were some people, the way they reacted to her. So I had to, you got to speak things into the kids to kind of make them strong and know how to deal with the wickedness that's out there in the workforce without allowing it to break them because you want them to be strong like you. And that's why I say I don't know how people do it without having that anchor, your faith, to hold you up. Because what are you going to grasp on? The government? What? What is out there to hold you up? I'm just waiting. I don't know anything else. So if I don't hang on to that anchor, that spiritual, I'm going to just dissolve and just, what's the point? Even when our children, even adult children, are in a good place, we still have to keep praying. Yeah, because the enemy He's just lurking around. Remember that? He's just lurking around. But I remember when I was growing up, they would tell us stories from, the older women would say, "Oh, so and so was saying that, um, like she said, somebody would go around somebody's home trying to attack or something, and then they would come back and say, oh, we were going around trying to get in, and there were like four big old tall guys standing around the house. Those are your angels while you're sleeping." Mm. But one thing though, I always say when I hear people say, "Oh, the Lord will protect His own," for example, in a fire, a tragedy, a shooting. And I always say, when you say that, are you saying that some of the people who got killed didn't get God's protection? We got to be careful what we say. What if I'm flying the airplane and it crashes and I die? Does that mean God has given up on me? You got to get to that higher level. Nothing is promised in this crazy world. God doesn't promise us we're going to live forever. I mean, I pray to Him that He will let me go to sleep and not wake up. But I think we all would love to go that way, right? Yeah. So let's just be wise in our words and not make people feel like if something is happening to them, it's because they didn't do something or God has given up on them. Zip. Yep. The devil never sleeps. Yes. We must keep praying. Yes. I mean, they say, yeah, we came around and we saw this big old tall guy just standing there. Mm. That's why I tell people don't mess with God's anointed. If someone, and I think I posted that in one of the Facebook posts, if a sister or a brother or whoever doesn't bother you, don't go out of your way to make life miserable for them. Talk bad about them, especially someone who tried to do good for you or to you, and that's how you want to repay them. I said, be careful because God doesn't like ugly like that. And I say, when you're looking around your life and you see things happening or not happening, take inventory. Who I have been messing with? What did you say about Maggie or somebody else? What has she done to me? Come to me if I've done something to you, and I will apologize to you. But you don't need to be going around talking about me because it's not going to bode well for you because I haven't done anything to you. All right? So be careful. Don't spread things to mess up your joy, to keep your blessings from coming to you. Don't do that. That's wisdom. Wisdom living. I haven't done it this week because with Thanksgiving, I didn't have time. Don't mess with people. Don't take it upon yourself to do this. No. Because when you see things happening, ask yourself, what have I been doing? Don't do that. Don't do it. All right, ladies, let's see what time is it? Oh, hour and 38 minutes. All right, ladies, any other questions? I think we had a good chat. I scared you with the fire thing, explosion. But we're in this together, you know that. We're all at risk. Do what you can. Angels are real. Very good. All right, guys. Any other questions? I will talk to you tomorrow. Oh my God, tomorrow is Sunday. I don't even know what I'm going to cook yet. But I was saying it has to be something that's in my cupboards. I do have a piece of fish. I cooked fish for Thanksgiving. I had the turkey. I had chicken wings with that yummy I made a sauce with honey and uh, vinegar, and it was good. And then I made covina. I made fish, and you marinate the fish with all the herbs. Woo! Yeah, but I have no meat. The turkey was gone, the fish was gone, all the wings were gone. So I probably need to do something meatless tomorrow. I just had some ice cream because it was left over. Whew, I better go for a walk now again. All right, guys. Thank you for hanging with me. Greta, I will see you tomorrow, my friend, Miss Deborah. Thank you, thank you. I'm glad you did too, Felicia. Yes. We always chatting about something of importance to you guys. If you come into Panama, just know Panama is beautiful, but it's not perfect. And you live in these high rises. I never thought I would live in a tall building like that because I like to be on the ground. But here I am. So I can't be worried about earthquakes, fires. I just do the best I can and leave the rest to God. All right? All right, thank you. I will see you next time. Have a good evening. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate it. God loves you. I love you. Au revoir. À la prochaine. Bye.